Askreddit Asks teachers of Reddit, what is the biggest holy shit red flag of any kind you've seen from a student? NSFW.
I was giving a spelling test to my third graders and one student calmly got out her glue and poured it in her ear.
How does one get glue out of their ear? Let alone a child? Child's ear, you ruthless animals. They squirm, cry and complain.
Sounds like a reasonable response to me. I'm sure she just wanted to block out noise in order to focus on the test.
I teach middle school math. We have a Saturday school once a month for students with failing grades to get extra help in whatever subject. One kid did not want to be there and he was placed in a conference room in the office so he didn't disturb the other kids. So this kid pulled out a tooth. An adult tooth. He pulled it out of his face. It was terrible.
This is honestly the worst one I've read.
I don't think a Saturday school once a month will actually help any of the kids with math.
How I can't even get a grip on a tooth.
I remember a kid in 5th grade that would shit in his pants. Reach down there, pull some out, roll up little dookie balls and throw it at the other kids. All the while laughing like he was having the time of his life. That's gotta be some kind of red flag. Edit, I'm not teacher, by the way, but I saw the question and instantly thought of this kid. I was in the 5th grade in 1980. The protocol for handling this kind of behavior in children is probably different now. Hopefully, he got some help.
I would agree that's pretty out there. Don't quote me, but I think that's a sign of abuse.
This was a long time ago. I'm not a teacher but was doing a co-op placement as an educational assistant when studying sociology. We're talking like 15 years ago, give or take. Had a student in the class, with behavioral problems mind you, walk up to another teacher who was pregnant and proceed to tell her he was going to cut the fetus out of her. Nobody really knew how to react. And the tone in his voice, look in his eyes was up there with the most evil shit I've seen up till that point in my life.
My friend teaches and told me this. He had a student who constantly picked at his scabs. He would rip them off and eat them, then lick the blood off his fingers, then pull alcohol swabs out of his backpack and clean the wound while smiling creepily. He made everyone feel super uncomfortable and grossed out. But no matter what, he wasn't removed from the class. Finally one day my friend comes back from the teacher's lounge to find him using a letter opener under his skin and moving it back and forth. Blood everywhere. When asked what he was doing, he said his skin itches and it's best to get it at the source. The kid was finally removed from the school. My friend never found out where or what happened to him though.
There was a kid in my brother's 5th grade class who tattooed himself with pen ink. It worked and he was forced to wear sleeves when he played on the middle school basketball team so they didn't show. He's in prison. Edit, I should clarify that doing a few dots or a little smiley face isn't a big deal. People do that all the time and turn out all right. This kid did his entire arm down to the elbow.
My friend runs a swim club for kids. She once got a complaint from some mothers that one 8-year-old boy was performing fellatio on some 6-year-old boys in the changing room. The kid wasn't allowed to come back. And it turned out that his grandfather molested him. That's where he learned the whole thing.
Mom taught for 30 plus years. About 10 of them were in a self-contained classroom. So, if kids didn't succeed in this self-contained unit, they were expelled entirely, so worst of the worst. She loved the kids and over that time had only 2 that truly frightened her. The common thread was they had no effect whatsoever, they were never happy. Never sad, never jealous, never vengeful. It was just nothing, at least the kids who were angry, frustrated, apathetic, silly, etc., were feeling something. Of those 2 kids, one is now in jail for a long time. She doesn't know what became of the other one.
This year I had a female student, middle school, who had cut her arm so many times you couldn't really see the skin. Just a bunch of bloody, scabby cuts. She hid it well at school as it was winter and the students were all wearing sweaters. We only found out because one of her friends started crying and told me I needed to talk to her immediately. Used to have a kid in my class that enjoyed hurting others. Laughing right after throwing something at a student and laughing harder at him being affected by said action.
Literally.
I was in charge of an after-school program for junior high and high school students, 13 to 18 years old. One time I was waiting for a 13-year-old girl to get picked up with her friend. And this is the conversation I hear from across the room while they were messing with the whiteboard. Girl 1. Draw a swastika. Girl 2. You can't do that. That's bad. Girl 1. Why? Girl 2. I don't know. I just know bad. Girl 1. It's okay. My dad has it tattooed on his chest. Me. Eyes. Edit 1. I was working in a semi-rural part of the US. And Dad was a white guy who lived in a trailer park. I'm not one for stereotypes, but I'm pretty sure the guy wasn't Hindu or Buddhist. But I appreciate this sub's ability to always look for a silver lining. Edit 2. Spelling and grammar.
Source. Wife is a teacher. 8th grader would smear his own shit on the restroom walls. Threatened to rape my wife in the comments section on her classroom YouTube channel. Rookie mistake using your real name as your username. When called out for it, parents lawyered up and said no one could ever prove his account wasn't hacked, so we had no way of knowing it was him. Later my wife found a note near her classroom door in his handwriting saying he was going to shoot up the school and that he already knew where everyone was going to hide. School went on lockdown and he was later found hiding in the woods behind the soccer fields. When questioned about it, he said he ran because he was scared. I could go on. Kid will likely shoot up his high school.
No one could ever prove his account wasn't hacked. That's not how it works.
The worst, I had a student with claw marks over her eyes. Like legit looked like someone scratched her eyelid. The whole upper area right under her eyebrow was scarred and it was like too small to have been an animal. Me and a coworker asked about it. She started to get defensive, and once a kid starts stammering and making excuses, you gotta make the call to CPS. I got fired for making the call. I apparently hurt the school standing in the neighborhood because I snitched, and the kid got removed from her family and sent to another state. Another kid had trouble staying up in class. Turned out his house was at the center of a coke bust later that year. Fun times.
I teach in an area that has been very affected by the opioid epidemic. I taught a student who was well known to be addicted to heroin. He was also the person who gave his mother her first dose of the drug. His mother died of an overdose. The last time I saw him he had self-tattooed on his arm, "I killed my mum," in huge letters.
Out of all the crazy shit I've read in this thread so far, this one hit the hardest. Damn, that sounds super emotionally fucked.
That sounds like some kind of almost coping mechanism, or maybe a reminder of his guilt, or it could be more sinister. But I prefer to think it's one the former too.
My mom is a special education teacher, mostly kids with autism and learning disorders. Middle school aged, but her program has gotten students who don't fit into regular classes. So they get dumped into her program. One of the students, about 6 to 7 years back, was super weird. He was mouthy, hated authority, and was a lot bigger than the other kids. He wrote "I'm gonna rape Miss Teacher" in bright red Sharpie on a paper he had to pass in to another teacher. They called his parents into school to talk about it, and the student's mom started laughing about it. She said that her child had a weird sense of humor, but he meant no harm to anyone. She also had another student whose parents had him miss school on December 21, 12 because the world could end, and they couldn't expect him to spend his final day at school. Edit. Whoa, this blew up. Yes, this happened in the US. No, I don't know the student's name. And even if I did, I wouldn't feel totally comfortable saying it. And yes, in the US, or at least where I live and went to school, we usually only got the week of Christmas off. Like, December 21st, 2012 happened on a Friday. Christmas was the following Tuesday. The students went back that Wednesday, which was January 2nd.
There's a kid in this preschool class. Age 5. That says the most off-the-wall stuff so far this school year. She has said that her dad is going to come to the school and kill kids and their families. That she has a doll that will come to this other little girl's house and cut her heart out, eat it and cut her legs off. And finally that her dad shoots kittens. At this point, I'm thinking of calling CPS or at least pushing the issue with the school district because there is no reasonable explanation as to why a 5-year-old would be saying these disturbing things.
Not a teacher, but had a kid in the 2nd grade with me try to stab my eye out with a pencil. Multiple times. He was obsessed and had to be taken out of class and dealt with on several occasions. Never anyone else either, just me. His reasoning? I had done the same to him in his past life. The stoic, intense look on his face when he said that still gives me chills.
I was stabbed in the butt cheek with a pencil. It had to be removed. The tearful kid they Saturday across from me told him that I wouldn't eat his boogers he was trying to share with me 1st grade.
My cousin, currently in 1st grade, had a girl in his class throw a computer tower in their classroom and slapped and punched the teacher as she tried to gain control. To my knowledge, nothing ever happened to the girl because the teacher and the girl's mother are good friends. They don't want to ruin her time at school by reporting the incident.
They don't want to ruin her time at school by reporting the incident. Translation. They don't want to confront the fact that this student has a serious problem and might need some help.
My mom used to teach in a boys' secondary. This one kid was generally an arsehole, violent, rude, provocative. One day the deputy head dropped down dead of a heart attack in front of some of the kids at break time. Less than 10 minutes later this particular kid was imitating the teacher dying in front of the others and laughing. For entertainment. Not in the least fazed by what he'd seen. And had no idea that what he was doing was horrifying. Edit just to clarify. This kid was in year 10. So 14 or 15. This was not an awkward way to deal with what he'd experienced. He just thought it was funny. The teacher's wife worked at the school. And when she came back after the funeral, he did his little impression for her too.
How old was he? Not saying his behavior was okay. But younger kids really might not get it in a situation like that.
I had a classmate who wanted to hurt the kids for fun. If there was blood, he would celebrate it, no matter if he was expelled.
Blood for the blood god?
Skulls for the skull throne.
Milk for the KHORNE flakes.
Student skipped a week or two that he had pool time at PE. Counseled his parents at conferences he was exhibiting some gang tendencies, oddly so were the parents. Found out later that year he skipped pool PE class because he had his last name tattooed across his back in Old English. This was a 14-year-old.
Fuck. I'm guessing you guys are in a gang-heavy area. I know that seems like a dumb question. I only ask because I'm in a ruralish southern area. And I could still see that happening with kids who have medded-out parents.
Too late to the party. But my mum has taught for near 40 years. The only kid that ever truly scared her was a kid that used to act like he was sucking up until he thought she wasn't paying attention. Case in point was when she gave everyone a Christmas gift before break. He fawned over how great the gift was and that he was cherish it forever. The second he thought she wasn't looking, he threw it in the garbage. He was 9. Side note, I worked with him at a telemarketing place in high school. I remember when he told me that he had been diagnosed as a sociopath. He was eating an ice cream cone while explaining it to me and said, basically, a sociopath means I would feel the same way eating this ice cream cone as I would killing a dog. Shed it. Words.
URL redacted. Askreddit comments 219 W20 who's _the _dumbest person you've ever met CGBHKWP.
Also. And URL redacted comments 3 DVDAD finally bringing home this little guy CTBMPN7 to the Kevin saga.
Jesus. What did I just read?
It's going to depress some people on Reddit to find out Kevin has adjusted. Has a job and family and is more normal than them.
Had a kid who would pinch and slap a kid with an infection around his mouth purely to see the pain. When he lost his shit she didn't flinch. Showed no remorse and was scarily intelligent. I think there may be some issues there. Also a kid putting a Stanley knife to another girl's throat and laughing as she tried to free herself. The first girl was 8 and the second was 10 or 11. It is my first and only year of teaching. Edit. Everyone asking about the knife. Which is fair enough. I cannot begin to explain how much scarier the girl was though. For reasons I can't explain. I would genuinely go some kind of path, but I'm not a psychologist and don't know the difference. Edit 2. Got bigger than expected this did. Finally feel I have some friends. Sorry if I don't reply to your comments and that. Hopefully any questions you have already been answered. The friends thing was a joke. I have at least 2 in real life.
I had a student earlier this year who came to me because he was kicked out of his last school, according to him. He was covered in tattoos as a freshman in high school. On the second day of having him in my class, I looked up from my desk while students were supposed to be taking a test to see him miming cutting off my head with something shiny. When I went back to see what it was and he laughed and hid it. Swearing he had nothing. I looked up to see him doing it again. Same thing happened. I let it go. After he left the room, I found the pen he had been writing with under his desk with 2 small incisions in the cap. I immediately reported it to admin. He was moved to another teacher a few days later for an unrelated scheduling issue. He threatened to kill her. He was moved to another teacher because of this. In the 3rd teacher's class, he drew pictures of rifles all over his essays. So many red flags. He was finally sent to the alternative school a few months back. But he'll likely be back. Edit. To clarify, the incisions on the pen indicated that he was using some kind of sharp object, a thumbtack. I suspect to mime cutting my head off. And yes, we have documented and reported these things every step of the way.
There was a kid I knew in 2nd grade, he was wild. When we were in the same class together, the teacher would regularly have to call the assistance team, a group of teachers that would restrain unruly kids and were trained on how to do so. He would throw desks, chairs, scissors once if remember correctly. The following year, we weren't in the same classroom but it was a small school so you'd still hear about things. He tripped a very pregnant teacher causing her to go into labor. No idea how he didn't get expelled for that, but the final straw was when he found a rusty pocket knife on the playground during recess and stabbed the student sitting next to him in the stomach with it for no reason. Still wonder what happened to him. And he sucked his thumb regularly. Edit. Assistance team. I meant assistance team.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to support the channel, and above all, have an excellent day you incredible people.